Tailgate Talk fans, we're in the shop today on the workbench, and I've got this Metabo, or some people might say Metabo, HPT crown stapler. This Hitachi makes the exact same one. I'm not sure who actually makes it. I'm assuming Hitachi does, but that doesn't matter. You can see the model number here, but what I'm going to show you applies to probably several different models. Now, the problem I had was I was loading staples in it, slid this back, and I heard something snap, and a little S-hook fell out on the ground. And then this didn't work anymore. Not work meaning it had no pressure pushing the staples forward. It's just flopping all over the place. So realized that the spring inside had come loose, and that little S-hook was what actually held the spring on. So I've fixed this already, but I'm going to show you how to do it. There's a lot of temptations to start taking all this stuff apart. There's a lot of Allen screws here you can release and all that kind of stuff. But there's no reason to do all that. Okay, there's really only one part you need to take loose, and that is this pin right here. And that's your pivot point. I'm gonna turn this kind of slow so you can keep oriented. That's your pivot point for pushing that back, and then your staples would saddle right on that rail there behind your feeder. Okay, so that's all that is that pivot point right there, and it's got pressure on it because there's a spring in there that makes it go back and forth, right? Okay, so that's part number two, is that spring. So the first thing you want to do is take this little C-clip off of this pin here, and I'll try to get it close enough. The lighting in here is not great, but there's your C-clip. And what I used was this little pick I have here. It's a little out of a CRAFTSMAN screwdriver set, and I just picked that little guy off of there. And then this pin slides out. It comes out like that. Okay, so set that aside, and very small pieces. So this is if anything, it's tedious. It's not that difficult, but it is a little tedious if you got fat fingers. And then the other thing you want to watch out for, again, is this spring in here. So this spring is it's not really attached to anything. It's seated. It's got a little seat in there, a little cutout piece that the spring sits in. And as you can see, this raised part here, that's where the spring sits in on the metal part. So again, what I did, I can't remember if I may have taken this pick again right here and pressed that spring down, or maybe I took this screwdriver and mashed it down. And of course, you want to be super careful that thing's going to just fly off somewhere. So that's that. You've got the pin out, you've got the spring out, and on this end, there's really all this is it's got a little nib in here that connects to this, and it just hinges on that. So once you get this part loose, you're gonna bend it back a little bit and just start wicking it out of there like that. That's gonna slide right out of there. And what you're gonna find inside, I did a drawing of it since, again, I'm not gonna take this thing apart. What you're gonna find inside is this. In here, you're gonna find the spring, right? And it is seated inside of this metal piece right here. So on the back side of this, it's got little metal pieces that create a little, kind of like a little pin or a little cage for it. And that spring sits in there, right? And it's all wound up tight like this. And again, the S-hook is what came loose. So pay close attention to my drawing here, because when you put this thing back together, it matters which way you put this S-hook in. The S-hook should go in the top of the spring. Goes in the top. My drawing's upside down, but let's spin it this way. There we go. Maybe that makes more sense. Okay. So again, here we are inside here. Once you get this cover off, here's what you'll see. You'll see the spring, and unless the spring broke, it's still in there. Again, my S-hook, for some crazy reason, it came unhooked and just fell out on the ground. So this spring is inside. This S-hook needs to hook in the top of the spring here. And then this part goes on the outside of this case right here. So the S-hook goes up, it goes around, and it hooks back in. Now let me see if I can zoom in here, and I have to unlatch this and move this out of the way, and you can see right there. So that's the S hook. So it hooks into the frame right there. You can see it's got a couple of holes. It comes out the big hole and in through the small hole at the top. So again, we see it right here. Out through the big hole, in through the small hole, back into the casing, and then loops around, and this spring has a hole right in it right here. So get that all hooked together, and then when you go to put it back together, you may have a little trouble with the spring itself. When you got this pulled back a little bit, the spring kind of arches up a little bit. It's a spring, right? It wants to coil up. So it arches up a little bit, and it kind of gets in the way of putting this piece back on. So you just have to be aware of that. And what I did, I pulled this back, and then I just took an Allen wrench and stuck it in somewhere right about here. But it actually has this lock on the end. You can figure out which better works for you, to stretch it all the way out or just partially all the way out. Worked best for me right about there. Stuck an Allen wrench in that hole, and then I went back to putting this rail back in. So just in reverse order, you push this back in through here, get that little pivot point back in that hole, get your hinges lined up, put your pin back in, put your C-clip back on, and then I found it was easiest to put that spring in the plastic side. And again, it's got a little seat in there. Get the pin in the plastic side, and as I slid this main piece back into place and into that pivot point, I kept the spring mashed down with a screwdriver, and until it popped into place right there. So that's it, Tailgate Talk fans. Again, little tedious, and but it is an easy fix if the spring did not break. And I'll link to some of my tools below, and you can actually, if your nailer is not that old, look at the Metabo repair website, and if it's still under warranty, they will actually pay for you to ship it to them and fix it, and they will ship it back. Mine was just barely out of warranty, so I had to do it myself. So I hope that helps you, and we'll see you next time on the Tailgate. Take care.